Most extreme canals and waterways in the world. Canals and waterways help ships get where they're going, but not all are easy to cross. Some waterways are treacherous with violent currents and super tight squeezes. It takes the best captains in the world to traverse these waterways. Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be bringing you the most extreme canals and waterways that exist in the world. So be prepared to be amazed. China is home to lots of important infrastructures, and the Beijing Handson Grand Canal stands apart for not being very high-tech, but instead for being very old, covering a length of around 1,700 kilometers, and stands apart from being the world's oldest and longest canal. It's been constructed in sections ever since the 5th century BC, and more or less reached its present size by the 1200s, built in order to transport goods and create a unified communication system between northern and southern China. It was one of the most important infrastructure projects in Chinese history, and to this day it's still used extensively to facilitate trade, and while its old age means that countless repairs have been made and that floods have caused some extensive damage at times, the Beijing Handson Grand Canal has stood as a timeless testament of imperial Chinese engineering. Bangkok is a city that's known for being humid, swampy, and low to the ground, and as a result it's the perfect place for a canal system dating back to the founding of the city in 1782. These canals have historically served a number of important purposes, as they were consistently used as a means of transportation, as a source of food and water, and as part of various ceremonies. These canals were expanded during the 19th century. By the 20th century, a road-based system had become preferable, and soon many of the canals were filled up in order to make way for land-based vehicle traffic. However, despite the fact that the canals are less extensive than they used to be. Texas is one of the United States' most economically important states, so it makes sense that it's home to a massive port and canal that facilitates all of its trade. Known as the Houston Canal, it offers a conduit for vessels between the city of Houston and the Gulf of Mexico. Opened in 1914, the canal allowed Houston to replace Galveston as Texas' main harbor, with this being seen as preferable since Houston was further inland and thus less susceptible to damage via hurricanes. As such, the Houston Canal continues to be busy, and today it's considered to be the United States' second largest port. Of all the canals on this list, the one that arguably has the most storied history is the Corinth Canal. It's a man-made canal in Greece. It connects the Gulf of Corinth with the Ionian Sea, with the Saronic Gulf and the Aegean Sea. While it was completed in 1893, it got its start in ancient times. The canal has largely been considered a failure. This is because of its narrowness, high channel walls, and its tendency of the limestone to erode into landslides, which made the canal far too dangerous for large ships. The result is the Corinth Canal is almost exclusively by small pleasure vessels. The Volga and Don rivers are two of Russia's most important waterways, and the Volga-Don Canal that connects them is unsurprisingly quite important as well. Construction of the canal was first begun by the Ottomans in the 16th century. After bad weather conditions and Russian invasions hindered their construction, the canal building effort was abandoned. After about one-third of it had been completed, the initiative was then once again reignited by Peter the Great, but ultimately failed. And it was only in 1948 that a successful construction attempt finally opened. In 1952, the 101-kilometer-long waterway features 9 one-chamber canal walks and currently provides the shortest navigable connection between the Caspian Sea and the world's oceans. As such, given its continued use to this day, it's considered to be one of the Soviet Union's crowning industrial achievements. Canals of Venice may be Europe's most famous set of municipal canals. The canals of Amsterdam are certainly a close second. Also known as the Venice of the North, Amsterdam first began to dig canals during its golden age of trade and development at the beginning of the 1600s in what was essentially one massive infrastructure project. 3 main canals were built and houses around them were constructed, and when the initiative was completed in about 1660, the city had grown to 4 times its original size, and it arguably had the most intricate and efficient system of navigable waterways in the world. These canals served an important role in facilitating the trade around the important port city. While there are plenty of beautiful canal systems, one of the few to be considered a World Heritage Site is the Xochimilco Canals of Mexico City. Located in the southern borough of modern-day Mexico City, the canals are 170 kilometers long and connect the 18 neighborhoods of this area, along with 4 villages that surround it. And they date back to a period before the Spanish colonization of Mexico. Interestingly enough, canals like the one at Xochimilco used to cover all of Mexico City. Yet, due to Spanish invasions, decreased water levels, and other geographic and political factors, only the ones that Chocomicho are left today. They're now a multi-purpose waterway, as the canal not only facilitates trade, but also it's home to plenty of tourist attractions, such as a colorful gondola service. While the Suez and Panama Canals may take the cake from being some of the world's most famous canals, it's in fact the Kiel Canal that's the world's busiest. It's located in the German state of Schleswig-Holstein and connects the North Sea and the Baltic Sea. And due to its annual ship traffic being an incredible 32,000 vessels, it's a massive source of economic vitality in the region. Now, the canal's construction began in 1887, thanks to a mix of naval interests and commercial pressures, and in 1895 it was officially opened. It was an instant success. It was soon widened to allow dreadnought-sized battleships through, and while a brief stint as an international waterway happened after Germany's loss in World War I, for most of its history, it's been the property of the German government. Now, generally speaking, most canals are in areas that are warm enough so the water remains in liquid all year round. However, in Canada's capital city of Ottawa, the Rideau Canal goes against this classic narrative, connecting Ottawa to both the St. Lawrence River and Lake Ontario. The canal is a 200-kilometer-long route that was completed in 1832 by the British in order to defend against the United States. You see, during this time period, there was little love between the two countries, and after the War of 1812, there was a very real possibility that another war would be sparked between the two nations. Therefore, in order to provide a transport link between the major cities of Montreal and Kingston, the Rideau Canal was built. When it comes to canals, few are quite as famous as the Venice Canal system, connecting the various parts of Venice. The canals are essentially thin water passages that allow small ships to move through the city with ease, and they first were created right when the city was founded. You see, Venice was essentially built on a swamp, so in order to make the area fit for human habitation, the city's early settlers had to drain parts of the lagoon, dig canals, and shore up the banks. After the draining, the canals were lined with closely spaced wooden stakes made from water-resistant alder wood. And these were essentially driven into the sand and mud to create what have. Those were all the canals on our list. We hope you liked the video. If you did, leave us a fat thumbs up. We'll see you in the next video. As always, take care. Goodbye.